All right, let's dive into a really cool piece of modern database history. This is a story about a group of developers who looked at something we all take for granted, the relational database, and ask a pretty radical question. What if the way you talked to your database was the same way you actually think about your data? You know the drill, right? For decades, we've had this weird translation problem. Our apps, they see the world as this rich web of connected things, users, products, comments, you name it. But our databases, they just see flat tables. And that little bit of friction, that gap, well, that's exactly where the story of EdgeDB begins. So, to really get why EdgeDB even exists, we have to talk about the problem it's trying to solve. And for a lot of us, building anything remotely complex, that problem, it pretty much boils down to SQL. Or, more to the point, that constant headache of trying to cram our nice, object-oriented code into a world of rows and columns. And that brings us to what the creators of EdgeDB perfectly call join gymnastics. Come on, you know what I'm talking about. You just want to get, say, a list of movies with their directors and maybe each director's top 3 actors. In SQL, suddenly you're juggling like 4, 5, 6 joins. Your query becomes this monster that's impossible to read, a nightmare to debug, and even worse to change later. Sure, it's powerful, but man, it is not pretty. It was that exact feeling, that frustration, that sparked a total rethink. The idea wasn't to just slap another library or another ORM on top of SQL. No, this was a much bigger bet. The bet was that the developer experience itself is the next big thing in database innovation. So the goal became, let's rebuild that experience from the ground up. Let's keep all the power of a relational database, but completely change how we talk to it.
And get this, we're not talking about some ancient history here. EdgeDB 1.0 only launched in 2020. This thing is a truly modern database. It was literally born to solve the headaches of building the kinds of interconnected, complex apps we're all making today. It's a direct answer to decades of developer pain.
So, what is it? What do they come up with? They call it a graph-relational database. Now, think of it like this. It's got the rock-solid, reliable skeleton of a classic relational system like PostgreSQL. But it's also got the flexible, interconnected nervous system of a graph database. It's a hybrid, right? Designed to give you the best of both worlds. Okay, now this is the secret sauce. The key that unlocks this whole new model is its query language, EdgeQL. This is where the magic really happens. It's built from the ground up to be expressive, super readable, and to let you pull out exactly the data you want, in the shape you want it, with zero fuss. And just look at this, it's so intuitive. Instead of thinking about tables and joins, you just follow the links. You start with a movie, you go to its director, you go to the actors. The query language actually mirrors the way your data is connected. You're just walking through the graph. And just like that, the join gymnastics are over. Done.
Now, here's a comparison that makes it all click for a lot of people. If you've ever used GraphQL, you know how awesome it is for fetching nested data for an API. Well, EdgeDB takes that exact same idea and builds it deep into the database engine itself. So you're not just fetching data for an API, you're querying your actual persistent database with that same power, backed by all the consistency and reliability you'd expect.
But okay, writing pretty queries is one thing. The benefits here go way deeper. EdgeDB is all in on a schema-first philosophy. And that has some huge implications for how you build your apps and how confident you feel while doing it. And the results are things you can actually feel. When you have a strong, strictly typed schema, your data always has a predictable shape, and that just wipes out entire categories of bugs right off the bat. It also powers incredible tooling, like auto-generated query builders. You end up spending way less time guessing what your data looks like, and a lot more time actually building cool stuff with it. So where does this thing really shine? Well, it's custom-built for applications with lots of interconnected data. Think about a social network, right? You've got users, posts, comments, likes, it's all a big web. Or a big content management system. It's also just the perfect fit for building modern APIs, where you need to give your front-end developers exactly the data shape they need, no more, no less. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. To really get what EdgeDB is doing, it helps to see where it fits on the map. It's not trying to be the replacement for every database out there. It's carving out its own very specific and very powerful spot in the ecosystem. When you stack it up against the tools you probably already use, its unique spot becomes really clear. Compared to just raw PostgreSQL, it adds this incredible layer of developer-friendly clarity. Unlike GraphQL, it's not just an API layer, it is the database. It holds the data. And when you put it up against traditional ORMs, well, it gets rid of all that messy mapping and guesswork. You get direct, typed access to your data just as you defined it. And here's something that's super important to remember. This is an open source project. It's being built out in the open, and there's a really passionate, growing community that's pushing it forward. This isn't some closed-off corporate black box. It's a massive collaborative effort to figure out what a relational database should look like for the rest of the 21st century.
And that really brings us to the big final question, doesn't it? By blending the solid foundation of SQL with the fluid, connected nature of a graph, EdgeDB is offering a pretty compelling vision for the future. It's a relational rethink that puts the developer experience front and center, above everything else. So the question isn't just, will this one database succeed? It's, how will these ideas change all databases? Is this what the future looks like? Well, that's a story that's still being written.